I'm Tony.
Hi, Tony. I'm Thao.
Thao, nice to meet you. From San Diego. I'm homeless there currently. I've been on the streets for about 4 years. What do you do here?
So what do we do here? What Search tries to do is engage people who are on the streets or find themselves in shelter, and then we help them move into housing, get back to work, and find a way to kind of get their health, their stability improved and independent.
Is this the only place in Houston that does this, or are there other places that also do this kind of work?
So Search is relatively unique in the sense that our focus is purely around case management. People want to give food. When they think homeless, they think food, they think shelter. And our approach has evolved beyond that. We started with a day shelter, a place where we offered food, laundry, showers, but mostly it was about a connection to people who need connection again. And I think that that's the message that actually I'm trying to convey to people is that it's about a relationship that individuals need in order to kind of reflect on what do they want for themselves.
It's true, because a lot of times with homeless, the safety net of people around them is gone. There's nothing they can rely on.
So we become that safety net. So what we have here is our team of case managers.
There's a lot here.
There's a lot
in the other
here.
room too, huh?
Right. And this is really just a small group of us. So this portion are our front line folks. So the outreach, mobile outreach, of course, so they're not really here. They're out on the street.
I was reading about that. That's cool. I like that.
So we work with the police department and with other agencies out in the community so that we can divvy up, because Houston is so big that it's hard for us to cover all of it. And so a lot of times the community individuals will call us and say, you know, I met this gentleman or this person who's out in the street, who's panhandling or, you know, whatever they're doing, and they are concerned about that person. So then our team will actually go out and try to connect with them. And then we have folks that are trying to help people get disability income.
That's
just dedicated to that. So Lila is on that team. And so they have expertise in knowing what Social Security and the system needs in order for somebody to get qualified, because you know it's so hard to get that.
Difficult,
And then the rest of this team here are all of our case managers that are working in housing.
Wow.
Some of our team members are working with people who are living in individual apartments, scattered site throughout the community. And then we have some team members who work with people who are living in clusters within housing complexes.
I see.
Right. So, so Carrie, actually.
Hi, Carrie.
Carrie, this is Tony.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you, Tony.
My pleasure.
So I'm the team lead for our scattered site program. We have a number of clients that are housed within the Houston area. So we have apartments throughout the community, as opposed to like a congregate site where people are housed together. So on my team, I have a number of case managers that support people to be living as independently as possible in the community.
We're focusing on the chronically homeless. We're still, as a community, Houston is trying to end chronic homelessness by the end of this year. So we've put over 3,000 people in housing as a community. Veterans, we've placed over 4,000 homeless veterans in housing.
Chronic homeless is a year or more?
A year
with
or
a disability?
more with a disability.
What disability would you have to have for that? Physical,
Mental
probably,
health, physical health, substance use.
Addiction is considered a disability.
In working as a navigator, what challenges do you face? How does it work out for you?
The challenges that we're facing right now include connecting with clients, because clients may go MIA for whatever purposes.
That's me. You can't find me.
And then getting a lot of the documentation like for identification, and the documentation for chronic homelessness, because we need to prove that for to HUD. And then the next step or kind of barrier is getting a housing voucher or finding apartments that are going to take clients that may have criminal backgrounds, may not have income, they may have evictions.
So how do you, when you're faced with a client who has, let's say, an eviction or doesn't have the documentation of being homeless for the length that they need to be, how do you overcome that?
So we are allowed a certain percentage of our clients to be self-certified. So clients can say, yes, I've been homeless. And we do a lot of advocacy for our clients with property managers. We may go out and meet with the property manager one-on-one. We may bring the client with us. We just
that helps that backup kind of.
So the advocacy piece, it is so difficult because this is a relatively new, I mean, in the sense of the volume of people that we're putting into housing, and so we're needing more and more properties to partner with us to allow people to live there. So as a community, we've worked on trying to find, create databases. You know, the county and the housing authorities have talked together about how can we put in the kind of information that allows us to know the types of landlords that are more willing to accept people with criminal records or you know, whatever the condition, or that they accept housing vouchers from the housing authorities. But then we're actually having to do it one by one, each of our case managers, right?
So the best resource are other people who have navigated and have worked with property managers. So they say, hey, this property manager has worked really well with us. They may have a unit opening up. So it's connecting with the other frontline staff.
Yes. Are there incentives for the landlords to do this? I know in California there's
So that is the partnership that we have been able to create here in Houston. To be able to have so many people move into housing is a combination of HUD resources, HUD continuing care dollars that we're applying for. So Carrie's team is being funded by HUD homeless service funds. And then we get the housing authority to pay for the rent. And now we're trying to find medical and health partners to create an integrated care model. And that's something that we have with other teams, but we haven't yet been able to create with our scattered site. Thanks, Carrie.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Nice meeting you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So, I wanted you to meet also Laura here. Laura.
Hi, Laura.
You saw me coming.
It's my pleasure. Nice to meet you. I'm going to stand kind of close because I have the mic.
So I'm the team lead for our 1115 waiver program. So it's a Medicaid waiver. We provide permanent supportive housing, the case management surrounding it, for high users of emergency room services. So our goal is to maintain housing, but also to reduce ER usage. So we have, we're an integrated care model. We partner with healthcare for the homeless. And so we have a nurse, a community healthcare worker, and then case management on site.
We have that same problem in San Diego. They're the highest users of, they use the most money. It's a small percentage of the homeless though.
10%.
Or 10,
And we've noticed that a lot of it can just be like uncontrolled diabetes and being able to store your medication and learning how to take it.
It's a shame. Living on the street exacerbates those problems, I think.
Yes, exactly. It does. It really does. And access to health care consistently is a really big concern.
I know when I've had to get health care, it's emergency room because I don't have a doctor. So I understand, why those costs are soaring. Well, thank you so much.
No, thank you for everything that you're doing.
Okay. All right.
Here, I'm going to have you meet Brian here.
Hi, Brian.
I've never put you on the spot yet. Brian, this is Tony.
So we're actually working on a relatively new program. It's only been around a couple years. It's a pilot here in Harris County for a mental health jail diversion program. So it's actually funded by the state legislature and a local judge is over it. We're working with folks that have kind of the regular long-term homelessness that you've probably heard from others here, serious mental illness, but then also recent history with multiple jail bookings. And the idea is, you've probably heard about the cost of emergency services for homeless folks.
And jails too,
And jails, judges, police officers, that's all even more expensive. So what we're looking at is instead of cycling them in and out of the system for, trespassing, public intox, stuff like that, get them some housing, get them some services, work with them, maybe find a job that's okay with criminal history and kind of get them back.
Wow, that's quite a service.
So it's a little different than some of the other stuff. Our population tends to, skew a little bit younger, and we do a little bit more kind of skills modeling. But
see.
they do really have kind of this amazing resilience and ability to bounce back.
How's your success rate? Pretty good? Or?
Yeah, we've actually, the judge's office is running data on it every year.
Oh,
So
okay.
we're trying to expand it. It's been, more than
So what exactly do you do every day?
I'm a case manager. So I'm actually working with folks that we've got housed in that program a couple days a week on site. I am under supervision to get my clinical licensure, so I'm doing like one-on-one therapy. I'm running some groups out there. And I also spend a couple days a week actually downtown at a homeless shelter, screening just folks that are on the street for the program. So kind of sharing what it is, what it might look like if they joined, kind of really getting to see kind of that possible future for themselves where they maybe hadn't been able to before. Kind of really get them engaged.
Boy, what a wonderful job.
I see.
Yeah, that's great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So we have these day desks too that are not specifically assigned to staff for the rest of the team members that are working in the other sites. So Laura is actually in one of the 9 other sites, where apartment complexes where we have staff stationed there, and then sometimes they'll come here and work from here. That was in 1989 when homelessness really was just beginning to show up in a big way with our communities. And so there were no day shelters or no places for people to go. It was just overnight shelters, and mainly 2 or 3 overnight shelters. And people would have to leave early in the morning because the shelters would have to prepare for the next night. And so over the years, we really just got to know the people who were some of the hardest to serve among our population. And so we also became more clear about what you said. It's like, what next? Food is great, but what else? Right? And so we made a conscious decision 6 years ago to stop our immediate basic services and really focus on the long-term case management.
And that's important. It is.
And that relationship building. So what we have here is our employment services team. And so the new thing in Houston that, again, we're following the federal kind of model and trying to help families also in homelessness, not just veterans and chronically homeless, but families as well. And so we have a rapid rehousing team working in tandem with our employment.
That's good.
People need to get to work.
Sure, once that ends, they better have a job.
Exactly. So we have 4 members of the rapid rehousing team. Right now they're focused on families.
I noticed the children over there.
Yes. And we'd like to expand it to include single individuals as well. Because we do find that, there's a lot of people who are ready for mainstream. They're not disabled, but they need that financial boost in order to get their...
There's different approaches to depending upon what they need.
Right.
You got it all covered, it seems.
Well, we're learning a lot, and it's we learn the hard way too. Sometimes, and so, like, for instance, one of the things we've learned with our families is that we get these very big families with a single parent, and so it's very hard to get a job that pays enough to pay the rent for a 2-3 bedroom apartment. And so how do we help them? And so really it just kind of is now they really more as a voucher candidate, a housing voucher candidate than able to do it themselves.
Let's go back to when you said you feel like you can't work.
Yeah.
What other barriers are you encountering that you feel as if would make it difficult for you to hold a part-time or even a full-time job?
Full-time, it would just be a physical, probably.
What kind of experience do you have? What
are
you interested in doing?
Yeah, I was a waiter most of my life, but I've done other things, construction, tuna fishing, stuff like that.
Okay.
So.
Well, very diverse.
Yeah, and a long time at each one of those jobs. I'm pretty, steady. I don't like change, really.
Okay.
So a good thing about the Income Now program is that we can help you, well, I can help you as your case manager, create a resume and kind of hone in as to what avenue you're interested in working in.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of different backgrounds,
Yeah, that's
which
true.
are all totally different. So we could create a few different resumes. I have
see.
a few job connections
Yeah.
with employers that can help you find employment relatively quickly.
Tell me more about what you do on a daily basis.
Well, I spoke to you a little bit about the Income Now program. So my job in particular is an employment case manager.
Yeah.
So I work hand in hand with people like you that come in and they either have questions as to what they're eligible for disability-wise or employment. So some people come in and they just really are unsure as to where they want to work or if they can work.
Yeah.
So my job in particular, me personally, is I try to help my clients figure out where their interests are. And I do my best to make connections in Houston employment-wise and try to get people placed for work. So, but I assist with resumes, I create resumes, cover letters, I help some of my clients, I teach them how to use the computers because some people don't know how to use computers. And we go over interviewing skills and pretty much whatever my people need help with in order to find and maintain employment, that's what I do.
I bet you're really good at it. You're really easy to talk to. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. It was nice meeting you.
Okay.
So how do you go about earning money currently?
Well, like I said, it's going in dumpsters and finding things. You know, it's not really the cans that you find. You don't make that much money with cans. It's what I find, what people throw out that I could resell. You know, there's all kinds of things: jewelry, phones, electronics. I mean, it's amazing what people throw away. So that's how I make my money. And then I have food stamps, so that helps with the food. It's $190 a month. That's my only income there. Dennis paid for a storage for me, so I don't have to worry about my things. That's a big help.
So we've only been in this building since the end of June of 2016. So at our old building, we had a big dining room, a big waiting area, and kitchen, and kind of the full service kind of food model, showers and laundry. But when we moved over here, we converted it to really just a welcome center. And it's a place where people come. Mostly they have appointments with one of our case managers or employment counselors, or they are here for the first time, newly homeless, don't quite know what to do. So we try to help guide them to the right direction. So Ola works with people who are newly homeless to try to guide them. So you picked up this little help card. So this good. So it gives you the listing of the various shelters and health centers and things like that you can go to or call for assistance. But again, it's such a long, complex list. It's like, where do you start? So
they help take them to other places where they can't get on the Metro bus. And we make little tickets for that. And to take them to the VA and the Star Home to other shelters also.
I see. Wow. That's wonderful.
Yeah, so we have all the information stand that we show.
So who do you see here mostly, Ola, when you come? Who are you? What kind of situations?
We really get like the people who are under the bridge who wants to get, back on their medications and, just tired of living under the bridge and housing. We also see people who are like fresh out of prison. Have any IDs, some of them need medication. And they're just like stuck in the streets and trying to get themselves situated. So we have a mixture, and we have also some that has mental illness problems too. So we try to help everybody. We send them down to coordinated access, and then they get their assessment to see where they get places for.
Just west of us, less than a mile away, is the Beacon, which is where some of our staff are stationed there as well to do assessments for Housing Match. And then 3 of our navigators are stationed over there.
It's close enough. It's pretty close to everything central.
That's what we really tried to do in Houston these last few years, was really reduce the amount of movement that people have to go through. It's like, I don't know, how you have to do, but you have to walk from place to place. Trying to get a meal, trying to get a shower, get a job, or whatever it is. And what we wanted to do was to stop or reduce that and try to concentrate it into a smaller area where we can be more intentional, and be able to help you more efficiently and focus more on the long-term impact and not just keep people just surviving.
It's amazing. You're all on the same page, from the mayor on down. You guys are all right there on the same page. It's nice to see that, and you're excited about it. You know?
It is. We're a multi-faith organization. And so, so we bring together a lot of different churches from different congregations, different faiths. We have the Baha'is, we have the Catholics and others. And when we built this building, we wanted to have the spiritual component be a big part of it, because many people find strength in God. And while we don't want to push it on people, we want them to be able to find it or be able to access it. So, and I think that that's something that, especially in the South, we have a lot of church people, volunteers who go out and want to, offer their spiritual support and food. And sometimes it gets a little mixed up, and people wonder, okay, do I have to pray before I eat?
One time somebody gave me a sandwich and they said, Jesus made this sandwich for you. And I was looking and I go, should I eat it? I don't.
So we have to find a balance there where people have choice and people can still find the source of strength that is important to them. So in this field for 20 years, and most of our work was really about meeting basic needs.
Daily.
Or it was filling in little gaps here and there. I mean, we grew our programs almost a new one every other year.
Wow.
But it was still not enough traction until our community really came together 5 years ago and said, okay, we have to rethink this. We can learn from what other communities have done, just like you're trying to do with us. We learn from people in New York and Seattle and others that housing first is really a good concept.
It is.
Yes. And again, in the South, we have a very, we're pretty judgmental. It's like you got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, right? Well, it's like, if you don't have any bootstraps, how are you going to do it? With us, we had to shift our public's mindset, our donors and our volunteers, to accept that, you know what, we've got to help those people out there that are stuck, first and foremost. And we've got to get them into housing without judgment. We can't expect that they're going to be able to be clean and sober before we move in.
That takes a lot longer.
Right, or that they're going to be able to pay the rent right away, because how can you get a job when you're on the street? And we're not going to cream, for the easy ones too. Right? So it's easier to help somebody who just recently became homeless than somebody who's been on this corner for the last 10 years. So, and people didn't feel like they had the capability or the capacity for it. But we were able to get our community together to agree, okay, this is how we need to work. And this is how the principle is: no judgment. Get them into housing. Don't say no. Say yes. And that's how we were able to get traction.
It makes sense. I'm surprised it wasn't being done before. Because it makes sense.
It does make sense, but again, it goes against the norm.
Exactly.
Normal thinking, especially when people who haven't lived it. It's easier to say, well, you should. You should get off the street. I don't understand why you don't want to. People don't get that.
And a part of you, I read it in your book here, that you go out into the community and ask what they need, and that's helpful.
So one of the things that Search really focuses on is building the skills of our case managers and our staff to be able to connect with individuals and help them to make change, positive change, guide them in making positive change. So it's really about, how do you how do you build trust with somebody? And
it's hard to teach. You have to almost have it.
Well, that's the other thing that we've learned is so we have learned how to hire the type of people that naturally have empathy and compassion. and they're not going to be the ones to say, okay, here's how I'm going to tell you how to do things. You know, it's different. And then you will say, well, thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, you're right about that. And you obviously hired good people.
Well, thank you. But yeah, so it's about, okay, Tony, what is it that you want? How do you want to, how do you see, you know, your next few years? And so, you know, hopefully your conversation with Morgan put a little plant in your head about, you know what, I can work. I don't have to do all of it. I can do this to work towards that. So that's what we try to focus on, is what is it that Tony wants? And how do we help Tony recognize that? And shoot to aim for that goal for himself. It's not about me, it's about you. So anyway, so we do a lot of that kind of training, evidence-based practices to ensure that we can get movement for you. Kathy Crouch is our executive VP, and she is the mastermind behind our training and evidence-based work, and really getting us, you know, to be professional and effective.
We started using evidence-based practices, I would say 20 years ago. And the reason we started was because what we found was we had a relationship with clients back then, and it wasn't just us, it was like all the organizations. It was pretty paternalistic. You do this or we're not gonna. And what we found was we just weren't being effective. And so we wanted a model that helped us build really strong relationships with clients where they could feel like they could trust us and tell us anything, and that it was fine. And so we started using a model that was client-centered, and a lot of organizations say they're client-centered, but we're using it in a very specific way, the way that I think Carl Rogers intended. And then what we started doing was looking at this model about how people change. So how I make changes in my life, how you make changes, how all of us make changes. And we really got serious about using that model so that I would have a very different conversation with you if you're not thinking about change. Or if you were thinking about change. We talk very differently. And so that's the model we use, that's the approach we use. So we really want to try and be respectful of the reasons you want to make change and the ideas you've had about the kinds of change you want to make, as opposed to my ideas about what's best for you.
I'm a little familiar with that.
I bet you are,
you have to have somebody that believes in you,
Yeah.
and you have to be able to see it yourself, and
Yes,
have a
exactly.
mentor kind of a thing. Where would we learn more about the type of training that you
So there are two kinds of trainings that we focus on. One is commonly known as stages of change. And then the other one is a client-centered approach called motivational interviewing. And we've been offering that training here probably for 9 years maybe. And there are people all over the world who are approved trainers. And all of our staff go through that 2-day training here. And we invite other agencies, particularly agencies who are working with people who are homeless, but it doesn't just have to be that. So whenever we offer a training, we open it up to others in the community. We do charge a little bit of money, but it's pretty reasonable. And then we have ongoing trainings like we'll do, so I'm getting ready to do a training next week, and then we'll do a year-long brown bag once a month video training series. So we really show people examples of how to use these approaches. A lot of our staff get coaching if they have a little money in their budgets. And then we have some monthly booster groups. And so they get quite a bit of training on trying to be consistent in how they speak with people and not fall into old habits of telling people what to do, and you need to do this, you should do this.
That's important. I was speaking with Morgan a few minutes ago, and I was instantly felt comfortable. I felt like she cared, and she used terms of like, well, I am here for you, and and various things she did. It was just really welcoming.
So you guys don't have this kind of rain very much, huh?
No, never tornadoes.
Okay, it was good to meet you.
My pleasure.
All right,
really.
have
Thank
fun
you
on the
so
rest
much.
of your trip.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Yeah, as far as our funding, We have about 60% of our funding comes from government grants, and then we raise the rest.
Yeah.
We're at about $11 million budget right now. And so the government dollars, HUD, continuum care money, is a large part of it. And then we do get some state funds, but our state funds, you know, our state of Texas has not been, they're not really ones to give money to social services. It's just been in the last few years that they've started put some through housing for homeless and Texas workforce, so employment services is new, and Department of State Health Services is also relatively new, but we haven't really been able to tap that as consistently as we'd like. And then, and that's pretty much it. So we were able to raise some funds for this building, mostly through private, but some of it was through state dollars. So I was saying, the other thing I was saying was, we have a school, a House of Tiny Treasures, that we call it. And because, you know, what we recognize is that we have to end homelessness for the adults, the single adults, but then for the families, how are people going to get to work if they have no child care?
Yeah, that's right. That's a big
So when you have little children, you become very hampered because you don't have a family network, you don't have a network. So you depend on whoever to trust that that person will take care of your child while you're working. And it doesn't work consistently, and so they end up not being able to work. So the House of Tiny Treasures is a way for some of our parents to be able to go back to school, go back to work. But mostly it is about the children. We do not want these children to repeat the cycle of their parents, and we focus on the 2 to 5 year olds so that we can develop them and have them learn how to self-regulate so that they can, when they go to school, they can sit still, or they can be like every other child who's had a nice, you know, upbringing with family support that has worked for them.
It's so amazing what you do. It's amazing.
Well, thank you. Actually, about 10 years ago, we were about to go broke because Search was one of these human service agencies, grassroots, that couldn't say no to helping people. We wanted to be able to do everything. So we kept growing and adding services, and it got to the point where financially we couldn't support everything that we wanted to do. So we had to trim back and get clear about who are we, what is our best capability, what's our core competency, and that's how we got to focus on our case management and the capability of our staff to be able to fully engage people. So the things that we stopped doing, one was housing. It was ironic. I mean, it was really difficult for our staff to say, wow, really, we're going to let go of our housing programs, even though we're a homeless agency and people need housing?
And how does the people that pay you?
Right. And so what we said was that we need to be able to make ourselves indispensable to the housing partners. We need to build relationships with apartment complexes, with nonprofits that provide housing, with the housing authority, and demonstrate to them that we are their needed partner in our case management capabilities, because apartments in itself is not enough for you. If you were to walk into an apartment today, is that going to help you in homelessness?
No, it's not. No.
Right. So it's all the other things that we can help put together with you to make it work. So that's, we said, okay, no more housing. We stopped doing adult education. We used to have adult literacy classes, GED classes, and all of that.
Libraries offer that. You can get that.
There are so many other programs that do it better than we could, who are focused on adult education. So we said, let's work with them. Let's send our clients to them. And then when we stopped doing the feeding, the day shelter, that was very hard, because that was the very first thing that Search created. That was how Search came to be. And
hard to let go of that one.
Exactly. And so for us to say to our founder, you know what? we've got to stop doing what you started.
Wow.
It was very hard, but she was very, is very progressive. And she's like, you know what? It's needed. It was needed back then. It's not needed by us now.
Yeah.
Yes. Now others are doing it.
Yeah.
So we don't need to do that. Let's focus on what we can do best.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing that we've done as a community is really stop everybody from doing a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And saying, okay,
Yes.
shelter, you're great at doing the shelter. Do that.
Yeah.
Case management, Search is great at doing that.
Yeah.
We can do that. Housing, you focus on that. Food, you focus on that. Let's not us trying to do a little bit of everything.
Boy, I hear that from a lot of people. Yeah, that's good. You're all on the same page with,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to get together in San Diego and figure this out.
So on Thursday, Tony is participating in the committee that's creating a 3-year plan on homelessness.
Yeah.
And he's the representative.
Good.
For
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's so important to have your voice in the room
Yeah.
and for you to speak up, because it's really hard. It can be somewhat intimidating, I know, to be in this room with who you think they are the experts. So it's like, oh, well, you know, what
I'm not so intimidated by
Good.
that. That doesn't really bother me. What bothers me is give me the right thing to say. You know, God,
well, you know what?
let me see what it is that I need to say. You know?
You are the expert.
Yeah.
You are the expert of this
Yeah.
experience of
Yeah.
your life and the experiences that other people are going through.
Yeah.
I could not speak to what you can speak to.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, don't sell
Yeah.
yourself short.
Yeah.
You have a lot in there.
Yeah.
To
I hope I
share.
see it clearly and be able to.
Well, you know, that's
Say it,
always,
you know.
it's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah. And I realize mine is just a small input, but it's an invaluable.
It's absolutely
Yeah.
invaluable. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to meet you.